Elima. Any questions?
Richard, frustrated that you couldn't get closer to them tonight?
Yeah, a little bit, but it was probably the story of our tournament. You know, I thought we played courageously and bravely, and I thought on a number of times we opened them up and stretched them, but you know, we just weren't clinical enough or good enough to finish out, to finish on the chances that we carved and created. And you know, what's come back to haunt us again is, you know, what we've been doing sort of over the last 3 or 4 games, and that's, you know, not turning the ball over great, and you know, a couple of errors, and there were a period in the first half before, I think for 15 sets we touched the ball about 3 times, and a couple of errors in there as well, and just too hard, you know, just too hard. I thought to lose 2 men in the first 5 minutes and be faced with, you know, the half-time lead and you know, a worry on sort of interchanges and only having 2 blokes to rotate. I thought it was a really courageous second half from them. I did.
I suppose it's too early to assess where this leaves French Rugby League, is it? Can you give us sort of a quick overview on what you say, thoughts are?
Well, I can only speak throughout the tournament, obviously, but the application and the professionalism of the players has been fantastic. We were in an extremely tough group. There were quite a few people not tipping us to get out. We got out by a fine margin, but you know, we achieved what we wanted to. And you know, I thought from that point of view, that were a result for us. Obviously, we'd have liked to have been, a little bit closer tonight, and particularly last week against Samoa. You know, we felt that was the one that, you know, we had a real opportunity. But the games in France were a major success in terms of the publicity, the profile, the stadiums, the actual atmospheres on the night again. And I think the question mark, you know, for the national team going forward is how do they increase the playing pool and the talent pool, because you know, it's not a big one at the moment.
And as far as England are concerned, having seen them close up tonight, how much might they need to step up to be able to get through to the final?
Pretty much spot there. I think, you know, I think they'll need to improve on tonight's showing. But what I will say is, you know, they're going into a game probably expecting, you know, with a lot of expectation, and probably at 22-6 blowing out quickly like it did. No matter what you say or what you do, it's probably hard to maintain that, and you know, don't take away from our guys for digging in, you know, for that last hour as well. So, sorry, for that last 40. But they'll need to improve. They'll need to improve when they play New Zealand, but they'll have that little bit of fear in the bellies as well, which probably they didn't have at some stage tonight.
Putting you on the spot, Rich, you said before the game, I read before the game you thought that England could win the World Cup.
But what else did I say with that, Chris? What else did I say when that? You know, you've read a headline there, but actually what did the context? You know, I said if they get the best form out and they play the best game on the day, they're capable of beating New Zealand and Australia. And I still believe that. But I would still suggest, you know, that the other two, you know, from what I've seen and what most of us have seen, really, you'd have to have the other two guys, the other two teams down as favourites. And England will know that. You know, but what I'm saying is there's enough world-class players and talent in there if they get it right on the day, you know, on home soil. You know, they've had some good gaps between games, heavily favoured by the crowds as well. You know, there's a lot of things in their favour that can help tip the balance.
Oliver, Richard just gave an overview of what he thought about French Rugby League, what needs to happen. Obviously, you're embedded a bit further. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, once again, it's the story of how many Super League clubs we can choose players from. We only got one club, one Super League club to choose the French players in. So you're always going to make it hard when Australia, England picks from 14 clubs. You know, you can do good things, but obviously it'd be a lot better if you get 2 or 3 best players from each club and get a good national team. But obviously, we got one club, and what we want is probably get a second one for the near future. So it can increase the pool of professional players in the French squad. But as long as we only got one club, it's going to put a lot of pressure onto the national team and the Catalan Dragons.
Do you think there has to be any change to the supporting competitions as well?
Yeah, I'd just throw into what Ollie says there as well. You know, talking about the Dragons providing the bulk of the players, but you know, there's 10, 11 Dragons not in this squad because they're overseas players or they're injured. And you know, when you look down the list of those names, they're very, very strong players. So, you know, realistically, You know, there's probably 5 or 6 that are regulars in Super League every week here. Let's not get carried away and say, hey, this is a full-time professional squad, they should be doing better, because the bottom line is it's not. You know, there's a lot of players that's played in the French team tonight under the banner of the Dragons that play elite rugby most weeks. So, you know, that's
work during the day.
Yeah,
Some
you know,
of them,
that aren't full-time professionals and that work during the day and have probably played, you know, a handful of games between them at Super League level this season. So, you know, I'm with Ollie a little bit. I think there is some scope and potential. The game's played down there, it's well supported down there. But as we've seen with the Dragons, it's not a case of, hey, let's throw a second team in. This, you know, it's 3, 4, 5 years in the making before you'd see that club get established and strong, because, you know, those players just aren't there if you decide to throw them in tomorrow.
Were you keen to stay involved, Rich, in French Rugby League? Would you like to play your
I've really enjoyed it. Obviously, a post-match press conference is probably not the time to debate it, but I've not spoken to Carlos and I've not spoken to my club yet, so if they wanted me, I would obviously have to ask my club, but either way, you know, I'd support whatever decision they wanted, and I'd have to speak to all parties involved and look at the programmes over the next year or so and see what, you know, see what they've got in terms of programming, because, you know, I've got a fairly big job on my hand at Super League level at this moment in time.
Olivia, would you like to see the England-France fixture resurrected? Because obviously it's not been part of the programme since 2010.
Yeah, well, we'd like to get high-profile games, whatever, if it's England or teams like Samoa in the Pacific Islands or whatever, Australia, New Zealand. Just try and get a high-profile game during the off-season. That'd be great. Yeah, definitely.
Any final questions?
Yeah, just on the detail of the injuries, Richard, on Jabor and Benny, what were the injuries exactly?
Kane Bentley's got a torn calf, and Vincent Duport, he's got a shoulder in a sling at the moment too. I'm not sure of the details of it, but he tried to play on. They tried to get him off and strap it up, but no good. And that would have allowed to us, because Vince is one of the, you know, one of the few strike players that we got in that team.
All right, everyone. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for going on to the
Thank
mix
you.
zone and out of the